The riches are in the niches. Just focus on one strategy. So new day, new week, and I'm up in the north, the great north. So I'm up in Durham today, and I'm going to be just checking up on a number of things. I'm up here for a few days, so follow along. Particularly today, I'll be helping to organise and sort out one of our storage containers. So, you know, when you've got a number of properties, furniture gets damaged, because we usually typically provide houses that are fully inclusive with furniture. We then have the storage container for that, as well as when we take on new houses that we have furniture ready. We've had this storage container for nearly 2 years, so we're going to organise through that. And then also I'm going to be checking up on our service accommodation, seeing how that's going, meeting our property manager to sort through how we can make some improvements. And then tomorrow I've got a strategy session on 2 of the businesses. One is our sourcing business, and the other one being our service accommodation, so we can make sure we provide even more improvements to distinguish ourselves from the marketplace, create great offers, and effectively grow the business even further. So follow along. Every time I come to the north, I always reminisce over actually how I got started in property when I was in my last year at university. And one thing that then thought that I could share with you was how you could start with a little bit of money. So my backstory was I was university, you can imagine, had hardly any income. I used to work part-time for a purpose-built student accommodation, where maybe I'd work 3 or 4 times a month, and that was just to help supplement any additional expenses I had for like food, going out, etc. But it was in that last year where I got interested in property. Back then there wasn't all YouTube and all this information, so I had to learn. Went to a few courses, free seminars, etc., free workshops to get started. But when I did get started, I had to take a loan of £1,000 from my sister, thank you, and then £1,000 from my girlfriend, who is now my wife today. So £2,000 is how I got started, and I was only 20 at the time. So it was a baptism of fire. But with that £2,000, I took that to building the sourcing business we've got today, the portfolios we've got today, as well as the lettings company that we've got today. All started from 2000. A lot of failures, a lot of lessons along the way, but ultimately already good success and growth as well. So it got me thinking, what could I recommend if someone's only starting out with £1,000 or £2,000 of capital? So let's address the elephant in the room. With only £2,000 or £1,000, you're not going to be able to buy a property outright. No way. You might be able to buy a small little shed or something like that, but it's not going to be usable at all, is it? Well, I don't want to get you in trouble for buying a shed and then trying to rent it out. No way, Jose. However, you can still get involved in property, you can still get started, but one thing you're going to have to trade off is your time versus the lack of money that you have. And when I was a student at university, that's one thing I had on my side, time, but a limited amount of money. But for someone to just get started with a limited amount of seed capital, that time is going to be really valuable. So with time being on your side, you've got a couple of options that you can do. One is to use your £1,000 and maybe start small and effectively crowd invest, and that could be through peer-to-peer lending, where you can invest as little as £50 to £100 in regulated crowdfunding platforms, and they might give you a fixed return of 5 to 6%, maybe even more, and at least it gets you started, at least it gets you creating this element of passive income. And 6%, 5% isn't something to be sniffed at. If you put your money in the bank, you're only going to get 0.01%, if not less. The savings rates in banks are terrible. So 5-6% could be useful. And for peer-to-peer lending, what are you going to be doing? You've effectively got a platform who would identify several opportunities for investment, where the investor is is looking for seed capital, and that seed capital could be for a purchase, for redevelopment, refurbishment, etc. And then the platform then goes out to the wide marketplace to say, hey, we've got this opportunity, you can invest as little as £100 for a fixed return of 6%, 5%, 8% over the year. So that's one route that you can go down, and the benefit of that is if you've got limited amount of capital and you've got limited time, that's a good opportunity. It gets you into property, it gets you actually active, and you can start learning from that. You can start seeing, okay, what properties are working? How did that person invest? What opportunities are there? It opens your mind to the opportunities that exist. Another element that you can invest in is REITs. So what is a REIT? A real estate investment trust. So effectively an open-ended trust where you invest money just like on the stock market, and this trust will then go and buy several different types of properties. It could be residential, commercial, etc. They seed together other people's money together, and they'll go out and invest in these properties. And again, they would also pay out a dividend. It's higher risk because it's not a fixed return, but you get the element of being able to benefit from capital appreciation. Their shares might also increase, and they also pay a dividend too. So those are two good opportunities where if you've got a limited amount of capital and you've got a limited amount of time, or you don't want to deal with the day-to-day of property, those are investments that you can go down. You're not going to get the great returns that you might be expecting, as well as the huge capital appreciation, because you're effectively pooling your money together. But it gets you started, it gets you learning, and it's nothing to be sniffed at, because many other investors with a lot more capital do the same thing. So you'll be going down a well-trodden path. So I'm now here at our storage unit, where we're going to be organising a number of the furniture that we have in storage, seeing what we need to keep, seeing what we need to remove. But you know, it's so funny. This is like a Blue Peter moment, but gone bad. As you can see, the padlock's become rusted. This obviously isn't an external padlock, so it's open to corrosion. So we'll get someone out, cut that, or we might be able to get away with put some WD-40 there and get rid of it. But in the meantime, I thought I'd follow on. I was highlighting, starting out with a limited amount of capital. So when you've got a limited amount of capital, the first thing to really think about, if you're not going to invest in the REITs or investing in a peer-to-peer lending isn't the route that you want to go down, is to use your time wisely. What that lends it yourself to is trying to do something where you can invest in property with a small amount of income. So one of them could be investing in purchase lease options. And if you ever want to know about that, drop a comment and I'll explain that a bit more. But very quickly, it's effectively agree a property at the price today and then take over payments from the vendor, and then have the option to buy at a later time. So it's an option to buy but not obligation, and then you control the property and benefit in the long term from capital appreciation. Now, those opportunities don't always come along, and they're not always consistent, but that is one way. Another way could be to invest in rent to rent, guaranteed rent. Now with 1,000, 2,000, that's going to be very challenging, but it is a route to go down, and it could be the stepping stone to then investing in an outright property like a HMO. So for clarity, what's rent to rent, you can go and find that in the first video of Dwayne's property diary, where I went into it in a lot of detail. But with 1,000, 2,000, my recommended route, if I had to start this all over again, would be to go back into property sourcing, and that's why I continually do it now. And the major benefits are: one, getting properties off market. Number two, is always creating a pipeline for properties that we can own, and if it doesn't meet our criteria, then sourcing on to other investors for where the property meets their criteria. The third benefit is obviously being able to be compensated for sourcing that on. So in property, it's a high capital investment asset. With property, many people get into it to replace their income, but it's being able to build up that capital that's key. But with sourcing, you can create the money for deposits to invest in property. And that's effectively how I started. It's continuously source properties that were good, that met people's criteria, and then pass them on for a fee, and then benefited from building up deposits, having investors saying, hey, we know you're good at this. We know you can get really good investment opportunities. Can we invest with you? So joint venture partners as well. Oh, let me stop here. Stinks. I think I'm going to turn around again because I can get a whiff of the general waste. So Louise, what have we found? Some baby Johnson's are. This is the trick. If you haven't got WD-40, this is the one. Let's see.
I use this to clean an old fireplace up. Cast iron come up beautiful.
See, builder's best friend.
Never a dull moment.
Nah, exactly. So that's round one. We've been defeated. Let's see if round two. Oh my god, I don't think this one's gonna work.
I don't. It's a wood saw or a metal saw.
Yeah, we need a small. Round three, crowbar. Round three, wins. Perfect. It's been a long time since I've been here, so it's actually quite a few stuff, isn't it?
There is, yeah, there's wardrobes, there's beds.
Yeah, so you can see there's like loads of sofa, radiators that we picked up. We've effectively finished emptying it. Let me walk you through the madness that was in the storage unit. So over on this side, we're going to keep, so we're going to put this in one of our properties. This batch here of seating area will sell on. The radiators, there's a quick story behind that. We're at a local plumbing centre. These were typically roughly sometime between 50 to 100 pounds at the retail price, but we're going for £5 each, so literally it was a bargain. So we bundled about 30 to 40 of them. There's still a lot left over, so we're going to keep some, we'll dispose of some. The blue chairs we're going to keep. These two sofas, we just have to figure out where we're going to keep it. This is like storage wars. This is one of the lots where if someone bid a few £100s, they'll walk away with a treasure trove. All the stuff on the side we're going to get rid of. These radiators we'll keep but dispose of them. All the furniture at the back we'll dispose of as well. So I thought I'd just give you a quick update. We've broken up a lot of the stuff. I've got the easy job, driving it to the refuse centre, i.e. the recycling centre, whilst Louise is all hammering away, banging away. So you can see the storage containers coming along well. And then by the end of it, I'll show it to you. So whilst Louise continues hammering away, whilst I've got the easy job, I thought I'd continue my conversation around starting with just a few £1,000s, i.e. £1,000 to £2,000. So when I talk about sourcing, I'm not just saying source anything. Yes, you might have time on your hands, but no matter how much time in the day, you can get distracted. So what I would say is actually focus on one strategy. So that strategy could be HMOs, sourcing HMOs. Another one could simply be sourcing below market value or good buy-to-let high yield properties. Another one could be sourcing properties that could be bought, refurbished, and then sold or refinanced. Or it could be SA or rent to rent. It could just be any of those and much, much more. But what I say is focus is if you focus, you'll start becoming quite a good expert in it, identifying those opportunities. And people start seeing you as the expert in that arena, seeing you as the one that can get those opportunities. So you don't need to think oh, should I go to a new area or whatever, or should I go here? Actually look around you, look in your radius and say, okay, well, with the time I've got and in the area I have, what are the best type of properties to source? So when I started in Northeast, we were just coming out of the property crisis. Other areas had started increasing in price, more southern areas, but the northeast house prices on average were well below, by 15 to 20% below the pre-2008 property decrease. So the greatest opportunities were actually finding motivated vendors that were willing to sell at below market value, and then selling them to investors that were looking for that. And then also buying from my own portfolio once I built up enough deposit. And because I was just focused on those type of strategies in that area, I focused on what worked in that area at that time, we used to start getting a lot more friends, family, and other investors coming to me to invest. And that's how it grew. So with just a few £1,000s, start niching down, learn about different strategies if that helps, but start niching down and using that time to focus on finding those properties. Because what you'll find is, after a while, those investors who bought those properties, when it comes time for you to then buy, you can actually work with them for where they can joint venture with you, partner with you, and buy those properties outright with you, now starting to build your portfolio, starting to build your wealth as well.
Must be warm right the way through.
So yeah, a new day in Durham, and the key purpose today is to focus on strategy, more specifically about target market as well as our unique selling point. So, but before that, what popped into mind is to actually carry on our conversation regarding sourcing. So if you're going to go down the route of deal packaging and sourcing, then look at it as an art form where, rather than trying to be the greatest at everything, one of the key traits I'd first of all focus on is actually get good at finding a deal, which is obvious, but regularly knowing how to find that deal, creating a strong pipeline. And that strong pipeline will mean you actually having to get good at marketing. Now, the marketing could be marketing to estate agents, it could be marketing to other agents, it could be marketing offline or online, but be very good at marketing. And one of the key things to know, and you might have heard it before, is the riches are in the niches. So niche down, as I said, about what kind of strategy to focus on HMOs, below market value, etc. And also niche down on the type of marketing. So pick one or two good viable options that you can work with that type of budget. I'd focus on something that's low cost. So maybe working with agents offline, maybe also doing search engine optimization, but doing it yourself rather than outsourcing it, and creating a really good, strong marketing so you can have a good pipeline. So that's the key thing here if you're going to go down that route of deal packaging / sourcing. So just to wrap up, if you've only got £1,000 or £2,000, think creatively, think about the time that you've got available, and look about niching down, focusing, become an expert, both in terms of the strategy that you apply, as well as the type of markets that you go after. Create that pipeline, and that pipeline will serve both the investors you work with, but also with building your portfolio in the future.